And good evening. It is Tuesday, August 23rd, 7 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. And first, as always, we'll begin with public input. Do I have any? That isn't already on the agenda? No? Okay. Chairman's comments. I only have some very quick things. There is a notice on the police Facebook page. Basically, if you see something, say something. Even in a small town like ours, that's important. They're getting reports of things that they wish they had seen maybe 1 or 2 days earlier. And I know it's important because I know my house has turned out to be a Pokemon site. So I get people pulling over and walking on my lawn, and I didn't know why, and our Stow police were on top of it, and they told me why.
And you get the Pokemon.
And I did know what it was before they told me. So. And I want to put in a quick plug for the Stow Bike for the Woods. It's a bike race. I'm sorry, it's a ride, not a race. It's a bike ride sponsored by the Stow Conservation Trust. It's this Sunday at 8:30 a.m. That's when registration opens on Common Road. It's very family friendly. There are distances ranging from 5 miles to 65 miles. And the longer routes, which are like 46, 35, 65, they go past orchards and conservation area. Moderately hilly, goes through Stow, Littleton, Boxboro, down into Hudson. A really terrific ride. $15, I believe, for non-members. So if there's any cyclists out there watching, please think about signing up for Stow Bike for the Woods. And I will now go to the meeting minutes. And Maureen, thank you. We have 2 sets of minutes. From April 12th, 2016 is the first set I have, and I have a stupid question to begin with. We haven't seen these already, because parts of it sounded familiar. Now, I know I was at the meeting, maybe that's why, but am I the only one who had a feeling of deja vu?
I didn't.
I am. Okay, so moving right along. Apparently we did not see these
I would have been
before.
afraid to say that if I didn't know who else was going to support me.
You know, I'm pretty secure.
Well, Mr. Chairman, at least for discussion purposes, I move to accept the minutes of April 12th as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 12th as submitted. Further discussion?
It's deja vu all over again.
It's deja vu all over again. I think it was especially your comments, Mr. Burke, I thought I'd somehow seen before. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions?
I'm just abstaining.
And Ms. Hegman is
They
abstaining.
just provoke a strong emotional reaction, Mr. Chair.
Our second set is for the minutes of our last meeting, August 9th. It was a brief meeting because we had spent a good portion of the night before at town meeting. And do I have any comments on these? I have none.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of August 9th, 2016 as written.
Just, Mr. Chairman, just noting that as they were in our original packets, I submitted one word change,
Oh,
which is highlighted on this document. It had to do with the sunken boat issue, and the original read environmental police. It should have read environmental protection. The ones that we're approving now, if this motion passes, are corrected.
okay. You're correcting the name of the department that was
Yes.
about. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hawes.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the minutes of August 9 meeting.
I already had a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of August 9th. Any further discussion? Did you have something you wanted to add, Mr. Fox?
No.
Anybody else? Seeing nothing. All those in favor of the minutes of August 9th as submitted, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. And now, one of our favorite activities in the year is permitting the annual Stow Gobbler race. Are there any folks in the audience who are here to talk to us about that?
We are.
Come on up, come on up. Yeah,
Oh,
please.
yeah.
That's all I say.
It's very informal.
Hi, I'm Nikki.
Tom?
I'm Nikki.
Ella.
Jim?
I'm Nikki.
Hi.
Don Hunt.
I'm Nikki.
This gets confusing.
5 people shaking hands with 5
Yes,
people.
thank you.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
Permutations,
Thank you very much for
combinations.
coming.
Thanks. Thanks, folks.
I couldn't do it.
So by now, this is a really established event. it's a pillar of the community, you might say. Why don't you tell us something about it, although I think some of us know all about it, and go ahead, the stage is yours.
Hello, I'm Jayne Conry, and we are sophomores at Neshoba. We are organizing the 10th annual Stow Gobbler this year. We wanted to thank you for giving us the permit for the last 9 years. Last year, we raised over $16,000 and we had almost 1,000 runners. All the money goes to the charities including the Stow Community Chest, the Habitat for Humanity, and Stow Rec.
Hi, I'm Lemieux. We are here tonight to ask for the permit for this year's race. It takes place on Thanksgiving morning, November 24, 2016. It is our 10th annual race.
Hi, I'm Eli Lemieux. This is a USATF sanctioned confirmation for the Gobbler. The USATF has sanctioned the race and therefore automatically insured. We also have been in touch with Bose. We received signed approval of terms and conditions for the Gobbler to use the outside areas of Bose for the race.
We've also been in contact with the Stow Fire Department to secure EMTs for the race day. We'll be checking back with them closer to the race. We have also contacted the Stow Police Department to discuss the safety plan. We have a copy if you want to see it.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll also be checking back with them closer to the race. If you want to find even more race details, you can visit stowgobbler.org. Thank you for your time, and do you have any questions?
So here's a chance to do a little PR. So does the race cost anything?
The race does cost something, but it all goes to charities.
What is the amount of the entry fee?
25 for like mail-ins or 25 for online, 30 for mail-ins.
But you get a T-shirt.
You get a free T-shirt.
You get a little swag bag.
I don't think you get a swag bag. You get a T-shirt.
But there's food and stuff.
There is
So
food
you-
after the race
Right?
for the runners.
Yeah.
Drinks, food.
How about the route? I did it once.
The route is 5K, so you start at Bose and you end at Bose. It's one big loop.
It goes out Highly Brook, and then it goes down
I
Delaney,
believe it's on that. It's listed at the bottom, I think.
Mobile, Maple, Delaney, back to Harvard, Highly Brook. Okay, that's terrific. 10 years. I actually, honestly, I thought it was longer than 10 years. It just seems like it's been around for such a long time. And how much did you say you raised last year?
16,000.
And you had, and I remember last year was a really crowded.
Yeah, almost
field.
1,000 people.
Yeah, and it's a sophisticated race. You have actual police details at,
Mhm.
at that tough intersection
Yeah.
at Harvard, so people don't have to run. I mean, they don't have to worry about crossing that intersection.
Yep.
Yeah, I just tell you, you put Mike for the Woods to shame with the sophistication.
Well, I think one of the things you probably want to encourage people to do is sign up early, don't you? Because people that show up late tend not to get a T-shirt sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
more expensive to get it when you get there than it is to get it online.
Mhm.
So do you want to tell people what the address is to get it online, or how they can find it? Because we've got people watching you on TV.
You want to go to www.stowgobbler.org and you can follow the instructions on the page. It'll lead you right to the sign up. The registration is open right now.
Perfect.
Yep. And you guys do this in conjunction with the Stow Recreation Department also, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose one thing is, how did you guys get hooked into this? I know that I know the history of it, but I think some people might be interested in hearing how you guys probably got put into it.
Well, my neighbor ran it, Jacqueline Harnett, and she just asked me if I wanted to get community service hours, and then I invited all of them to join
It's
me.
passed down to us.
Right. This is, I know some of the original founders
Yeah.
of this, and it's been a wonderful thing to see it continue, and I'm really happy that you guys have stepped up. And it's just been passed down from one group to another group to another group, and it's grown every year, so you guys are doing a great thing.
Mr. Burke?
I just want to
thank you as one pillar of the community to another. For all your hard work, for your contributing to the community and to the charities the community supports. And I move the approval of the permit.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the permit for the annual Stow Gobbler. I just want to say, you guys, it's really impressive. There's so many races on Thanksgiving. That the fact that you're growing that much is really amazing.
Yeah, it's a great event.
Yeah, I mean, every year it looks like it's bigger and more sophisticated, and it's really great. Further discussion?
I'm just going to say, if you want, get a hold of Maureen. I've volunteered every year for this, and I've got almost a spot that's mine, that I stand in the parking lot and tell people where to go.
One of your favorite things to do.
We've all been told by Mr.
I'd
Ryan
be
where
happy to
where
help
to
you
go.
guys out again if you need it.
Mr. Chair, at the suggestion of Mr. Hawks, may I make a friendly amendment to say, I move to approve the use of town public ways for the annual Stow Gobbler 5K road race on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, 2016.
Second that amendment.
All right, we're back where we were. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for continuing this.
An annual tradition is free T-shirts for the Selectmen.
We'll continue.
I guess nobody told you that.
And just remember, you guys have to start vetting your replacements now. You know, start finding somebody else.
They really think, don't give them any shit.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Did you mean the board or you personally? Me personally.
Smooth, say that.
Hey, that's all the graph we get. Come on.
Just hope it fits.
It's all the graph we get in the open.
All right.
Yeah. If we do it in open session, it's not illegal, right?
We disclosed it.
Don't look down here and ask me.
Perfect. Good thinking. Next, appointment of Call Firefighter to a Call Fire EMT, Nicholas Trioli. He's not here. So we have a recommendation from the chief. Mr. Trioli is a former EMT. His registration lapsed, but he's redone it. 140 hours of training. He redid that. So he's already a member of the force. Any discussion? Bill, anything you want to add?
I don't. The training work that I've seen done is extensive and comprehensive, and anybody that goes through it and does as well as he does will be value added to the force.
Mr. Chairman, on recommendation of the fire chief, I move to appoint Nicholas Trioli to the position of Call Firefighter/EMT for the Town of Stow Fire Department for the remainder of the current fiscal year, with subsequent reappointments being one-year terms beginning July 1.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to appoint Nicholas Trioli as a firefighter EMT for the terms so stated. Further discussion?
I'd just like to thank them for
Yes.
stepping forward. You know,
Yes.
these guys put in a lot of time, a lot of training on, and, you know, sometimes it costs them money to work for us, so. it's-
Well, and it shows a certain amount of dedication.
Yeah.
The registration lapsed for reasons beyond his control, and he went out and got it again. I know
Mhm.
if my bar registration lapsed,
You're not sure.
I wouldn't be taking that test again, so. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay? And that passes unanimously. Now, another pleasant duty. Ms. Sturgis, would you like to assume the chair here? Good to see you for the final report of the ESBC.
Nice to see you.
Brian Burke, pillar of the community.
So I've heard.
Self-proclaimed pillar of the community.
I was going to say, talk about pillars of the community. You're a pillar of the community.
Please don't. So, it reminds me of other pillars that we don't want to talk about.
So have you spent the past 8 or 9 years?
Yeah, wait, let's not talk about it. No, yeah, so this has been a big month. We actually finally voted to disband the ESBC after all these years.
My understanding is you can't do that.
Yeah, right, that's right. You can try, but yes. So, yeah, I mean, it really is, we were wondering, we're about to start the 5th year in the building, so it seems like about time.
Yeah, well,
So,
but
Yeah.
you had a lot to close out. I mean,
We
there,
did.
from the bankruptcy and everything else, that made a lot of unavoidable complications.
yes, yeah,
And that's all closed out now.
that's all done. And the money's all in and paid.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
So on behalf of the board and individually, job well done, thank you so much. We have your final report, obviously the numbers are terrific. Any comments, questions from my colleagues here?
Well, I think one of the things some people that might be watching might like to just hear those numbers.
Those numbers, yeah.
Ellen,
Sure.
please,
Yeah.
run through 'em.
So,
Very impressive.
for people who can remember that far back, in 2009, we estimated it was going to cost almost 38 million. The final cost was was about 31 million. We ended up getting 14 million from the state, from the MSBA, and basically Stow ended up paying 16.4 million, which is, based on the last estimate we had done at town meeting when we went for construction money, which was around 20 million, we saved over 3.8 million. So, and we got an amazing school. So I do want to, I have to recognize the team, particularly these last 4 years. I mean, we really haven't been meeting very often because there wasn't much to do, but Paul Griffin, CMS, really has went above and beyond. He's really been watching it, keeping in touch with both the MSBA as well as Craig Martin and the contractor brake builders to make sure everything got finished. And it was really about finishing out the process. The paperwork was really the last 2 years. It's just been paperwork. So, and it was, I met the new superintendent, who I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember her name, but she went into center on, I think it was actually during her interview process, and she was so impressed. She said that this is the kind of community, the school that this community produces, and it's a place I want to be. So our architects were incredible, Lorraine Finnegan and Phil Pinelli. And just, going back to all those committees, I still want to give a shout out to Rick Lentz, who helped us through the whole process with the SBTF. And Gary Bernklow and Steve Quinn and I were the ones who held through the whole process. So we're really happy. We were there to celebrate last week when we finally closed out.
Well, that's what I was going to say, the construction, even the design, that only goes back to like '09 or so.
Yep.
But there was a lot of work before that just to decide what to do, where to do it, how to do it, to convince the MSBA to be on board to the
Right.
extent that they got on board.
Come on.
Wow.
My co-chair.
Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Good to see you.
And I would say it was also really critical to have an architect on the committee. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, made a big difference to have, I think, Amy, Craig Martin as the building, who had just started when he got thrown onto the committee. I think it was one of Bill's first, oh, and by the way, you're going to be on this building committee.
He reminds me of it still.
Yeah, I bet he does. And Steve Quinn as an electrician and contractor. It was just, we had the expertise that I didn't have, but they knew what to ask, and that was, there was definitely a couple years there, and then obviously with the mess that we ended up with right at the last hour with the bankruptcy of our original contractor.
Right.
That not only meant jumping in and getting the new contractor, and I'd say brake builders were incredible. They stepped in and still got us open on time, which was a minor miracle. But it really, that's when we started getting into the mess of things that hadn't been done well by the original contractor, and having Amy and Craig particularly, I'd say, being able to look through things, made sure, the fact that we can still say we saved money through all that was really, we didn't expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember those difficult, that was the last time I was chair. And that was a difficult time, but you got through it. You got through it in flying colors, and it's just terrific. Mr. Watts.
Just a question, Ellen, there were some public donations as well that
Yes.
contributed to that.
Yep.
Do you have the numbers on that?
Yep, we raised a little over $350,000. Yeah, and that's, there was two people involved in that. Craig Martin actually wrote the grant that went to the organization for the Aspet River, and through them to, oh my gosh, who was paying for it?
Was it Intel?
Intel. Was it Intel?
Intel
It was
grant,
Intel,
yeah.
that's right, for the wastewater treatment, and that was a substantial amount of money. But then Greta Morgan pulled together a team of women that was called Recess, that did a lot of fundraising and created the beautiful tiles that really set the school apart when you
Thank
go
you.
into the lobby.
So, and before the meeting, Ms. Hegeman asked me if we had properly thanked Greta, and my memory is that we did. But just in case we didn't, I want to say thank you so much to Greta and everybody else involved in Recess. I thought their fundraising was extremely, not only successful, but creative.
Right.
One of those tiles is mine. I think it has the highest age on it of any tile. Can I ask one question? There's a cryptic remark in our materials that the Board of Selectmen cannot dissolve the committee. Is it like the United Nations Security Council? We don't have the authority? Why is that? They have a definite term?
Town clerk educated me that the bylaws under a town meeting state that it can only be dissolved at town meeting, accepting the report, which will actually appear in the annual report, and we accept that as usually our second warrant article. So
Right.
we can vote to accept it here as
Okay.
a formality. But
Okay.
I actually knew that.
Did you?
Because we
Okay.
were trying to get in this spring, but, you know,
Yeah,
MSBA
yeah.
had other plans for us, so.
It'll
Okay.
happen sort of
So-
automatically.
So technically, we've dissolved, we are not going to meet again, but.
Well, we'll still.
And you can try, but we
We're
won't
still
show
going to be
up.
expecting, in
You've changed the
February,
phone
in
number?
February, we're still going to want an annual report.
Yeah,
We'll be
that's right.
bothering you for an
That's
annual,
right,
like we
that's
do
right,
everybody else.
that's right.
So with that, let's get the business done with. I will entertain a motion to accept the final report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to separate this into two separate motions, if I may.
Could I make a final comment before you do
Sure,
that?
go
Of
ahead.
course.
As part of the settlement negotiating team, I'd like to thank the attorneys that we had.
Let's do that.
Because as it turns out, and they argued aggressively, and those settlement, they went on for 18 months, as you recall. But we ended up net gaining more. The last piece was the sidewalk repairs, if you recall. We got 300 grand for them, we're doing them for 90-something, and they'll be complete by the time school starts, and that will be the last act. But,
So
Chris
that's
and
Chris
Chris
Petrini,
did,
yeah,
they did
with
a
Petrini.
very good job.
Chris
They
Brown.
were very competent, hard-nosed,
Mhm.
they carried the flag,
true,
which
yeah.
is not always the case.
Right.
I think Mr. Burke has some remarks.
I just wanted to know if our town administrator wanted to identify the firm by name.
Oh,
Yes, Petrini
They
and
just-
Associates.
Chris, yes, Chris Brown and Chris
Petrini and
Petrini.
the Chris's.
Any further comments?
You ready for a motion,
No.
Mr. Chairman?
I am.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the final report of the Elementary School Building Committee, ESBC, signifying the completion of the renovation and expansion of Stowe Center School.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the final report of the Elementary School Building Committee. Further discussion?
Is this going to be a 3-2 vote, do you think?
Say, numbers are pretty good.
I know
I'll
where
give it
you
good
are.
odds. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous.
Grateful aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now,
And Mr. Chairman.
you may have been wondering in the past 7 years, why have I been doing all of this? Why do I stay up late at night? Why all the aggravation? This is the answer.
I get a key.
Mr.
Hey,
Hawks.
we got our plaque.
You already have a key.
That's
Okay.
right.
Mr. Hawks.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve and sign certificates of appreciation for Ellen Sturgis and Amy Finkel Hastings, co-chairs of the ESPC, reading as follows, and they are the same, so trust me that I don't have to read them twice. Commonwealth of Mass, Town of Stowe, proclamation and tribute of Amy Finkel Hastings, and a separate one for Ellen Sturgis. On this 23rd day of August, 2016, the Stowe Board of Selectmen hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Amy Finkel Hastings and Ellen Sturgis for their dedicated and professional services as co-chairs of the Elementary School Building Committee during the 9 years it has taken to achieve official completion of the Center School renovation and addition project. Originally formed in 2007, the Elementary School Building Committee was formed to direct and oversee the renovation and addition to Center School, with the goal being the consolidation of Stowe's K-5 schooling in one updated and large facility, rather than having two separate K-2 and 3-5. Expanding on the efforts of the earlier school building task force and previous committees, the ESBC sought funding from MSBA to significantly reduce the town's portion of building expenses. The MSBA approved funding in 2009, and groundbreaking occurred in 2012. Now, 4 years later, after the final MSBA reimbursement, the project is completed, with the cost to Stowe taxpayers some $3.8 million less than originally estimated. The Board of Selectmen takes this opportunity to commend Amy, her co-chair, Ellen Sturgis, and the entire committee for their diligence and perseverance in seeing this project through to its successful completion, with the result being an innovative and functional building for Stow's elementary school students that is an attractive central feature and true asset to the town.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to issue coveted Stow Board of Selectmen proclamations in the form just read. Further discussion? See, yeah, Mr. Ryan.
A couple things. I know Ellen's been involved in it a lot longer than 2007.
I know, this is so
And
scary.
that's one of the scary things. Over the years, for some people that may not know, I think this started probably about almost 20 years ago. And we started talking about, yep, just about 20 years ago, we started talking about doing something. Over the years, the scope changed, it went up, it went down, it went sideways, it went to heck. I think in the end, I really appreciate your guys' diligence and hard work, because I think we've got a great product the town can be very, very proud of. And, you know, at one point or another, Ellen and I went toe-to-toe a few times, but the thing is, she stuck with it. I think, you know, we both respect each other's opinion, and we've got like I said, we've got a great product. And thank you very much.
Very well said, Mr. Ryan. A motion is made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. And do you have anything you'd like to add, Mr. Ryan?
Signatures.
On a point of personal privilege.
Am I allowed to open this during
Of
town?
course you can open that here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hopefully we're at the share.
Well, tell everybody why you're giving her beer.
Public meeting. In a public building.
It's not open though.
It's not open.
I don't think anybody cares. They want to know why it's from-
This is something I told Ellen many years ago, that while we had our differences of opinion, I really appreciated all her hard work.
You did.
And I promised I'd
Get
buy her a beer when it was all done. And so, you know what? I wanted to make sure that I took care of it. Next time I see you in a bar, I'll buy a beer too.
There you go.
This is, yeah. But
Thank
hopefully,
you.
you know, you can share it with
We'll
Amy,
share,
too.
yeah.
Well done.
And I know you like dark beer.
I do, this is a good one. Thank you very much.
Oh, so you don't even have to, I didn't really realize that the actual official.
Yes, we have,
Oh.
of course, suitable for framing.
For framing.
Of course. Thank you
Display
guys,
over
I
the
appreciate
mantle.
it. But it did
Thank
take,
you.
as Tom said, I mean, I think we counted, there's been at least 5 committees involved in this discussion, and how many parcels of land discussed, and
Mhm.
a number of chairs, Chris Way, Steve Dungan, so,
Yep.
a
And
lot of,
the,
Nancy Fleming, thank you.
yep. And, you know, we had numbers as low as 5 million, which wasn't gonna fly, and we had numbers as high as 50+ million.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
wasn't gonna fly. So you know what, we ended up with a great project, somewhere in between, that I think you know, it was unanimous at town meeting.
Yeah.
I believe.
Right, thank you.
And, you know, it was a great project, and I really appreciate all the hard work you put in.
Thank you. And we're happy to be retired.
This is gonna be yours.
There must be, Great.
Thank you,
guys.
Amy, thank you, Ellen.
Okay. Thank you very much.
so much.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your work this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now I think perhaps the final word on 241 Boxboro Road. We have, no, I'm sorry, there was the other thing, that was 2 items. So now we have a discussion on the final Chapter 61A waiver after the town meeting vote. Obviously, town meeting voted not to exercise the right of first refusal. The board had to vote to exercise the right of first refusal back in July, and now we need to undo that. So, do I have a motion? Bill, do you want any further explanation?
I'm not gonna add it to track for me, after all that time. Let's,
Mr.
close it
Chairman.
out.
Whereas the town received notice of the intended sale of certain land on Boxboro Road, currently subject to Chapter 61A, specifically, first, 4.13 acres of land on Boxboro Road in Stow, shown on the Stow Assessor's maps as R19, parcel 10-3, described in a deed recorded at Book 55650, page 574 in the South Middlesex Registry of Deeds. And secondly, approximately 417 acres, subject to an agricultural lien dated February 24, 2011, comprising a portion of a 5.67 acre parcel on Boxboro Road, shown on the Stow Assessor's maps as R18, parcel 25, described in a deed recorded at Book 50254, page 246, in South Middlesex Registry of Deeds. And whereas this board held a required public hearing regarding the town's potential acquisition of the property pursuant to an option of, or right of first refusal under Chapter 61A, Section 14, and whereas this board voted on, do we have a date?
What date would we?
I have a blank here. Somebody can fill that in and correct the motion. To exercise the town's option or right of first refusal in order to enable a town meeting vote on whether to acquire the property and provide timely notice to the property owners of the town's exercise of said option or right of first refusal, and whereas notice of the exercise of town's option or right of first refusal was recorded in the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds on July 29, 2016, and whereas by vote of town meeting on August 8, 2016, the town declined to purchase the parcel identified as parcel 10-3 on Assessor's Map R19, and whereas no action was taken by the town meeting on August 8, 2016 with respect to that portion of parcel 25 on Assessor's Map R18, subject to the notice of intended sale, with the result that the town declined to purchase such property. I move that the Board of Selectmen revoke its exercise of the town's options or rights of first refusal under General Law, Chapter 61A, Section 14, with respect to the subject properties, and further, that the board waive the town's options or rights of first refusal under General Law, Chapter 61A, Section 14, with respect to the subject properties.
Do I have a second?
Second, and Maureen's looking for the actual date.
Well, which I think can be filled in
Okay.
later. Or.
Yes.
As long as you guys can sign. Yeah, I don't think that's. So that as a result of this vote, my understanding is the town administrator will issue 2 letters to Ms. Winkler and Mr. Messenger. And I believe.
That's the second motion, the next motion.
Oh, okay.
We actually declined, voted on this motion first, and then it's the second motion.
I want to ask, so is there a document we're going to sign?
No, just Bill's letters. This was all set forth by town council. It should be done, so
It's
just
a
a
statement
vote.
by council that will be recorded.
So
Okay.
this is vote this motion, and then
Got it. So any further discussion on the motion that Mr. Hawks just made?
Other than to allow Maureen to fill in the actual date.
The date is, she found it.
And you found it?
July 12th.
So do you?
I amend
take
my
a friendly
motion to
amendment?
include the date of July
And a
12
friendly
in the
second.
4th paragraph.
So-
July 12,
So
2016.
the motion should reflect July 12th.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And that is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the town administrator to sign the letters prepared by town council, revocation of exercise or option and waiver of rights of first refusal for 241 Boxboro Road.
Second.
So, motion made and seconded to authorize town administrator to sign 2 letters regarding the waiver of the right of first refusal on 241 Boxboro Road. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that passes unanimously.
Done deal.
Ms. Winkler?
Are the two letters, one for the 241 and one for Lot 3, that you're going to give us?
They're for both properties.
One's for one, one's for the other.
If there are questions, when you get it, just get back to us. Thank you very much for bearing with us. Thank you very
They'll
much.
go out, they'll go
So
out
thank you.
tomorrow.
Thank you for bearing with us through the process, and good luck in Quincy.
Can I pick them up tomorrow? Can I come see you?
Sure, I'll let Maureen call the office. I'm here early, so by the time she's here at 9, you can call.
I think, because I got to take them down to Kristen to get the final certification for taxes.
That was a draft, I got the actual.
All right, very good. So, one other substantive item on our agenda, not that the town administrator's report isn't substantive, is a,
Nice recovery, Mr. Chairman.
is a discussion and vote on the new liquor license fee for the Stow Acres Country Club. Now, my recollection, which could be flawed, is that we actually issued the new liquor license at our last meeting, but the item for our discussion tonight is whether to accept a full license fee or a prorated fee. Is that correct, Maureen?
It should be in the minutes.
No, we
Probably,
we
yes.
didn't resolve it.
It was just tabled.
It was tabled.
And there was a question about, not so much about whether to accept a prorated fee or not. I think since the board was, yes, take a prorated fee. But the question was whether anyone gets rebate of the prior fee. Am I not understanding this correctly?
I don't think we have to actually deal with authorizing any rebate if there's one due.
Yeah, I don't think it's, my recollection was the sense was that we've had no action appropriate to take on that.
All
No,
right, so,
the minutes bear out the chair's recollection.
well, if there's no question tonight, then there's no question tonight.
No, the question is, what's the, I think we just put, according to the minutes, we put off to another day, how much it was right to charge them.
That's separate from what I just commented on, Mr.
No,
Burke.
sorry.
I was referring to the chair's reference to a potential rebate.
Well, then let's leave the question of the rebate alone.
That's right.
Since no one seems to have a question about that. And let's just take up the question of prorated fee or full fee. And I will throw out there for discussion, why not prorate the fee? Is there a reason not to?
I don't see any reason. I think it's a fair thing to do.
I agree.
I don't think we've got to get it down to nickels and pennies, but I can see, I made a recommendation, charge them $1,000 instead of the $2,200.
What I would recommend is something that's calculated, only because to be consistent, I don't think you want to go from license to license at different parts and try to come up with.
I think we could
We
just
can
say
get, we can
prorate the fee.
prorate it, and I'll
Well,
calculate,
The-
unless somebody's already worked up a number.
I'm comfortable with that.
We have
Yeah.
notes here, just for the discussion purposes, as a guideline, the $2,200 fee divided by 12 months works out to approximately $183 per month, and to an amount between $700 and $800 for either $700 for 4 months or $800 for 5 months.
Go
So-
with it,
So how many months are we talking about?
5.
5?
August, September, October, November, December.
5. So let's make it 800.
All right, 8 months worth.
Mr. Chairman,
Or 5
just for
months.
discussion purposes, I move to prorate the remainder
Why 8?
of the 2016 annual liquor license fee of $2,200 to $800 for Stow Acres Golf Course.
May I offer a friendly amendment?
Certainly.
Mr. Burke?
since it hasn't been
Subject to the
seconded.
town administrator's reviewing of that $800 figure.
Yeah, I think,
Fine.
people, why don't we just,
Yep.
we're a policy board. Why don't we just set the policy of, yes, prorate the fee,
Prorate, fine.
and let staff do the math as is appropriate.
I withdraw my friendly amendment.
I withdraw my motion.
Well, you still have to have the motion.
We still do need a motion to prorate, to charge a prorated
I leave,
liquor license.
yes. Let me restate. I move to prorate the remainder of the 2016 annual liquor license fee of $2,200 for Stow Acres Golf Course.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to prorate the annual liquor license fee for Stow Acres Country Club golf course, throwing every word I can think of. All those, and further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. And now the town administrator's report.
I have an insignificant report this evening. I'll see what I can do to go through it quick.
Well, considering it's being received by a pillar of the community, I hope you do a good job with it.
I'll take, you guys finished now?
I didn't say anything, Mr. Town Administrator.
You started it.
I'd like to begin. Some final figures with regard to the elementary school building committee and the project that are noteworthy from our perspective. One is, as Ellen did state, we got the final check, and it's $799,600, a little more than we were expecting at first. And this relates back to the OPM fighting hard for a couple of adjustments when MSBA was, as I'm sure they want to do with all the projects, quickly just defaulting to a position that if you don't argue back, that's what you're going to get. And he did on our behalf, and he suggested we should, and it benefited us significantly. $93,000 is the amount that we've settled on for the corrective work on the deficient sidewalks, which were part of our lengthy negotiations with Western Surety, who was the payment bond insurer. Went on for months, and both Chris's attorneys, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of attorneys over the years, and I've not often felt that they were necessarily, that their interests were necessarily exactly as ours were, and that's not a criticism. But I can tell you this, that surety companies play hardball for any of you that probably I've done a few times, and their playbook, it doesn't vary much. So you go in there, and they carried it for us. And we ended up, as it turns out, with more in this aspect with regard to deficiency on the sidewalks, considerably more negotiated than what it cost us. So the fact is that this took us a long time to get there, and the default by the GC and even the replacement GC and all the rest of it, it was a nightmare. As most folks know, it extended the length of the project almost 40%. But we got there. It is now over. Those replacement sidewalks that were deficient by spec will be complete by the end of this month. And then that does, in fact, go to the bottom line. We're good. Going to take that $799,600, pay for the $93,000 cash, and then apply the balance to, we have a band note out at $1.1 million. We're going to apply the rest of it to that band note on this project.
That's great.
So that significantly reduces our borrowing for that band note. So I wanted to speak to that one first. I've noted for you folks that Doug Hyde, which was hired over a year ago, latter part of FY16, part-time assistant facility manager. He was part of the process of beefing up our resources and assets with regard to personnel and some of the expanded facilities that are ongoing, recently completed, and in the near future, particularly with the library and other things. One of the conditions of employment was that he was going to serve as building inspector for us. We give the title deputy, it's not a formal title, but to serve Fort Craig when he's on vacation, or as has been the case, as busy as we've been with other matters, he's out there. He had a year to get his certification as a local inspector, and he just passed it. And that's not an easy exam process for building code. And with the stretch code and all the other things that have been added to it, the changes, Doug's to be applauded for that, and he worked diligently for us, so I did want to mention that. In addition, he spent time at the Popo School. I mean, one of the things that your committee, we did together is to try to use our local resources, particularly when it came to the OPM, which Craig became. And Doug assisted him and reduced some of our clerk of the works costs coming down the stretch, when we didn't need that full time. So eyes on there with two home folks is, to me, always better and preferred than just somebody coming in that's been paid to do it. And it's proved its value as far as I'm concerned in catching some things. Doug is chairing the future space use building study group that was finally formulated a few weeks ago. Well, maybe it's been a month or 6 weeks. I can't remember as much as I once did. He's also on the committee for the library. That architectural work is ongoing, and they're hopeful for a target date of next annual town meeting to come back and say, we're looking for the following amount of money to do the work. And so Doug's dug in, and I've kept busy.
Doug's dug in, yes. I like that.
So, just wanted to bring you up to date with regard to that.
That's very good.
I did also want to tell you that there's been some incremental movement with regard to
This is great news.
potential. Mass Development, which is if you're familiar with Mass Development, most of you probably are, the state agency, I think it's quasi-public. They offer a number of finance funding for infrastructure projects, public-private partnerships. They can do some real creative financing that you can't find on either the purely public or purely private side with banking and stuff. They do some of the but-for projects that you couldn't otherwise get done. Along with getting a draft lease, which we prepared and submitted to both businessman Rich Presti and Steve Steinberg some time ago. The real difficulty is for them to come up with a business plan that a financier is going to look at, because this is it's a rare occurrence what we're doing. I mean, it's, we're offering land, essentially long-term lease, little or no money, so that they can drop a well, put a water system in. They're going to own the water system and the distribution lines going up on Lower Village. So somebody's going to be willing to finance that for them. Mass Development, as it just occurred last week, it's been months and months, along with Mass Rural Financing, which I don't think is going to work out. These folks have at least sent an email. The Vice President, Roy Angel, who I introduced him to probably 3 years ago, maybe more, I don't know. He's on the board right now saying, I'm going to try to make this work. It's a little out of our realm, but there's a new program they just got, the governor signed, that might fit this, and otherwise might be a stretch, but I think, so I've contacted Kate Hogan just to say, at the moment, I don't need it, but, Roy's got to stretch a little bit. When it's time, I'll ask maybe if you can help, and maybe we can get some other support from the government to do a little creative financing for what I would say a lot of infrastructure project would be a neat little, feather in someone's cap. And it would certainly satisfy a need down there.
If we wind up, if like you or the town building winds up getting involved in this, I'd love to know when meetings are happening. Just because I was there years ago when this started, and I've kind of taken a hiatus, and I would love to see it end.
Successfully.
This on the
Successfully.
school, nothing on you.
Well, what I was,
Well, do you know if they've dug the test wells? Because when I last checked in with them, they hadn't yet done.
no, because to be truthful, they got to the point that because it's, these aren't large development groups with a lot of
Right.
money. I mean, they wanted to get someone as a potential financing source with something in writing as a letter of commitment before they started spending money. So they've
Yeah, I guess
spent
that makes
minimum engineering money to do some preliminary pre-engineering spec on subsurface conditions, just due diligence stuff. And they were waiting for this potential good word, and though it's not a definitive, we can push on now a little bit when we do. I was telling people that it's been almost 10 years for me. I created that group back when the Aspet Water Company folded on us. And when Bob, who is now deceased, owner of Aspet, and in
Yeah.
part, that's why it fell apart. I mean, DEP was ready to help. I was trying to get water down to the Lower Village. First, with Bob setting up a new system going back 10 years in the Lower Village itself for a well on private property, that didn't work. But then, the two large wells with GDPs of 70,000 per, and he didn't need them all for Assabet. We were going to try to run it, if you remember, all the way down, and then that cost. But anyway, this goes back a decade, and these two gentlemen have been involved pretty early on, and they've stuck with it, and so,
I'm sorry, these issues, I just realized, predate a lot of people on the board. Does everyone feel up to speed? Does anyone need any background that we?
I think the town administrator has been very good. I remember this coming up in the last 6 months. I don't want to keep the town administrator. I think we all maybe Ingeborg.
No, I
No,
remember
she
from
was-
the Concom.
Yeah, she was involved.
I remember riding the whole route
For the
for
conservation.
the pipeline and everything.
I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm good. And
The bottom line for me is two things, which are both advantageous to the town. One is, out of bad came good. The failure and bankruptcy of the Aspet Water Company in the end was the best thing that happened to folks up at Harvard Acres. Back when we were doing the numbers count, it was clear to me early on, this dog wouldn't hunt. DEP had invested a great deal of money in it, but it was worse than even we suspected. So as they began to shut the system down, if you remember, we had to go to bankruptcy court and get the courts to agree to extend before they sold off the assets long enough so we could start drilling wells. And there was that one winter in 2010 and 11 where basically 160 wells got dropped from the fall through the spring. We did 60 well loans in about 3 months from start to finish in Pennsylvania, and there's not been one well failure. I mean, there's one gentleman has the wellhead right on his front stairwalk because that's the only waivers by the Board of Health because the setbacks were, I mean, this, but as it turns out, and though there was so much fear by those folks at Aspet Water Company, many of them were desperate to pay anything to keep that system going, but anything would have been thousands of dollars a year for a bill. And then when we just beat the deadline from the bankruptcy courts, when the system was, they were losing 30,000. We were down on Adams Street with 2 houses. That's all we had left, and there were 30,000 gallons a day going into the ground somewhere. That's how bad the infrastructure was. And can you imagine, as expensive as it was going to be for the new treatment plant and all the rest, there was no money in there for pipes in the ground. And that, when we finally found that out, just some takeoff numbers would tell you that those poor folks never would have been able to make it. And so they were able, with the money from the legislature that Kate and Senator Jayne Elders fought for, and that we were able to spend to make loans with, and to keep the operation of that place going, even a skeleton. To me, it was just, and so they've all benefited, and from that, because the state was anxious to try to keep that alive for obvious reasons, and maybe through extension, make it work on a cost benefit. So that's when we were thinking about dragging it down. But now I'm thinking it was so much better the way it turned out. So this is viable on its own. That through failure brought all those folks who were only having to pay, a tenth a year of what they would have been paying if that system if someone tried to scotch tape that system.
Well, this was a creative solution to a couple of big problems. I'd love to see it all come to fruition.
And the last piece is Eversource. We met last.
Should I, I have to conflict myself if we're speaking about Eversource, because I work for Eversource.
Oh, you do?
Not on this project.
No kidding.
So should I leave the room?
This is purely informational.
Just informational? Okay.
Yeah.
I think if you just stated you're recusing yourself from the discussion, I think you'll be fine.
So, as you know, we've formed a working group for this project, and they've been meeting regularly. I sit in with Eversource team, project teams, comes to us, and they came asking if they could update the team. They did last week. I provided you a copy of the presentation they gave us, so that'll give you the details of it. They essentially have 4 options, 3 of which are all the same alternative, but with variations by degree only, and then the 4th one is a completely different. And I think if you go through it, you'll see it, pages 7 and 8 give you a map and show you where they are and all the rest, so I won't go through that. But the important part here is that team, and you've met them once before they've come in, wants to come in at one of the 2 meetings in September to both present publicly what you have here and anything that might transpire between that last week. But they're meeting with the other towns as well, so something could come out of that. But in any event, they'll be on the agenda. I think they've already contacted, do you have a meeting date?
Well, I sort of suggested the second meeting in September, the 27th, because Kate Hogan will be here
Okay.
anyways. I thought you might want to see that.
Okay. So the 27th, they'll be here, and they'll basically be addressing the board. It'll be a public meeting, won't be a forum or anything, but doesn't mean folks won't have, and so you get a fill-in.
Mr. Burke.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the town administrator if he thinks it's worthwhile for us to meet with the TA working group the 1st September to get their views.
Well, we're not gonna meet.
First meeting in September.
We're not gonna meet again, but what I will give you is the notes that came out of that meeting last week and share it with you, that
Is
Jesse
that
took.
meeting in the first week in September, or the first,
My working-
second week in September?
My
No,
work-
no, your working group, I'm saying, does the TA working, would it be helpful to us to hear from the TA working group in advance from hearing from Evergreen?
Well,
he's got-
like I said, I'll give you the notes, and if you think in those notes, there's something there that's, I don't think so. We didn't come out of there with anything other than asking a few poignant questions, got answers to them, and those notes, but I'll share the notes that Jesse worked up. You take a look at them, and if you want to.
Maybe, I think I get Mr. Burke's point. Maybe we could put on the agenda for the first week, update on Eversource project from TA working group. You give us the notes in our materials. Maybe we can get Jesse to be ready to come in for a verbal update if we have questions.
Okay, I'm good. If you,
And
you can plug them in, and
Yeah.
I'll send you the notes.
How about Arnie?
whoever. I was thinking.
Arnie's been way up in the deep woods of Canada. He might be back. But whoever, if
I
everybody
think
on the
Jesse
group,
would-
including Arnie, if he's here,
Right.
they'll get the invite, and
Okay.
you can.
Right, and that way, if we have questions, but I know I feel the need to get back up to speed on this before they come in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else?
That's it for me.
All right, very good. Mr. Town Administrator, even though it's not quite 8 o'clock, I think maybe you can head out to Orange. It's an early night, we'll expect you here maybe 45 minutes earlier tomorrow.
Godspeed. If there was a certificate of appreciation going to the town administrator, it'd be every meeting. Thank you.
You criticized my
Oh.
activities report.
You must have-
All he
how
wants
did I
me-
criticize
No,
you?
he
Do you have-
did. I'm
do you
saying,
have
and he
brothers
wants
and
me in here at
sisters?
5:30 instead of 6:30 in the
Do you have
morning.
brothers and sisters? Were you the one always sucking up your parents? They must have hated you.
They knew he was gonna be the pillar of the community,
That's
so
true.
they
That's
deferred
true.
to him.
Self-declared pillar.
Good Ivan.
Thank you. No.
You're just pointing, you're just nominating people. Why can't I?
Liaison reports. I will start, for variety's sake, with Mr. Burke.
Actually, the only thing I have to report is what's going on in the future is that Tri-Town has been bounced to this first Wednesday in October. I know that's a heartbreak for many. But it will be in Lancaster still. Because I saw Eversource heating up, or Evergreen heating up, excuse me, I'm trying to meet with my what's the word? Cognate colleagues on the Sudbury and Hudson Board of Selectmen. I've got a meeting with somebody from Sudbury next week, and when Fred Lucy gets back, I hope to meet with him. He gets back from vacation, I hope to meet with him. And I will, of course, inform the board anything I learn in those meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Mr. Hawks.
I have nothing.
All right, Mr. Hawks, thank you. Mr. Ryan.
Oh, I think I'm just going to expand a little bit on what you had mentioned during Chairman's comments about what the police department had put up about see something, say something. You know, I think a lot of times people, they might see something going on, they're not sure about it, and, you know, if they don't consider it an emergency, they might just not say anything about it, but think about it. What Detective Sergeant Solis has suggested is that if you think that there might be something a little strange, call the business number. You know, you can talk to the police. It's not a 911 call, so it's not a big panic type of thing. But you know, it gives you a chance to relay your concerns, and you know, they'll check out anything that they have to see.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Burke.
May I just ask a quick question to my colleague, Mr. Ryan?
You may.
Isn't it correct that even though it's the business number, it's still recorded?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
When you call it, it says this line's recorded.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not as.
No, I understand the
Right.
distinction my colleague made, but.
Right. You know, it's best to identify yourself, but, you know, you can call their business number, express your concerns. And I've actually done that before. I actually called the police on my neighbor's sister. Because I looked out one day when I came home at lunch and see somebody walking out of my neighbor's house with a TV, putting it in the back of their car. And I knew they weren't home. But you know what? Called the business number, they got right over there, they checked it out. And it's better to do something like that than find out later that, you know, your neighbor's house has been robbed. But at the same time, by all means, if it is an emergency, dial 911. But by, you know, calling the business number, it makes it a little less, you know, it allows you to have a good conversation. The police will get back to you if they can't get right on it. But, you know, it just seemed to me that it was a very good idea for them to be putting it out there. You know, if you call and say you've seen somebody walking down the street in their pajamas, it may very well help somebody out. You know,
Well, right.
It's a little strange, but, you know, they might, I've walked down the street in my pajamas before, too. But,
Worst
So-
comes to worst, a police officer drives up and asks somebody if they're okay, and they're
Right.
okay. And so,
Yep, and
Yes.
so I just thought it was
Mr.
very much worthwhile, since I'd seen that, to bring it up, and I talked to Detective Solis about it, and,
Just to supplement that, I will point out that the police business number is 978-897-4545, for those of you who might want to take up Mr.
so
Brian's
pleased that you have that
fine
memorized,
suggestion.
so.
yep.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. And Ms. Hegeman, thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Nothing new. I know we've had some correspondence about the smart housing production plan, that it's going to be reviewed before we accept it, so I think you're all up on that. And then I reached out to the Recreation Committee just by email. I haven't gotten back to them, so maybe I'll give them a call, see what's going on.
And just to add,
Oh,
we're
yeah, that.
still trying to nail down Greg Troxel on the date
Oh,
for
okay.
ambulation.
Okay.
And we're doing,
I think your
responding quicker than I am.
I think your weather window is starting to close. Well, actually, it's going to be good.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you walk without the leaves, it's better, so,
Yeah, and I think a slightly colder temperature is
Might
better.
find the rocks, huh?
yeah.
I'm guided by my colleague, Ms. Hageman, because she knows all that stuff, so I will follow her lead.
But you were in the wilds of Montana not too long ago, Mr. Burke.
Totally out of my element, Mr. Chair.
And I don't have anything other than I'm trying to schedule what could be the final or the penultimate meeting of the Pompo Building Committee. And I have to hit Mr. Ryan over the head because he's screwing me up because he's not available on September 1st. So, that's all right.
I'll have to see if maybe I can do something about that.
Okay,
I'll-
okay. Is there any other business properly before the committee at this point? Is there anybody want to talk about anything in correspondence? Okay, Mr. Hawes.
Meeting without some reference to Lake Boone would be amiss in my colleagues.
You mean beautiful Lake Boone?
Beautiful Lake Boone, excuse me. This is a response from Lou Halpern to our acceptance of the Lake Boone sign, and the question which was studiously raised by my colleague, whether or not it had an E. I'm not going to read the entire letter, but he does spell, the conclusion is, for various reasons, in previous centuries, many towns and places had ending E's. There are Stow postcards that labeled the town Stow with an E, and there are old Lake Boone postcards that named Lake Boone with an E. And some of them just called it Boone's Pond without an E. And for various reasons cited above, the general feeling of those I've talked to is that the terminal E is just an old-fashioned spelling, and that the current spelling is Boone and paren Stow.
There you go. Well, that's put to rest.
I'm glad it was, well, the great thing about history, it's never put to rest, but at this point, I think it's been properly investigated.
Well, next meeting, perhaps Mr. Burke will have a dissenting opinion filed. All right, anything else? Or is the motion
Thank you,
for-
Mr. Halpern.
Well, of course.
For providing that
For
clarification.
follow-up, yes. I enjoyed that item in our last meeting, and that was much appreciated, and especially that you followed up.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 8:06.